So Alex, explain to me a little bit, like what does it mean to bring in pipeline organically via the website and social media?
The thing people need to understand about organic and what that truly means is that it's coming without you having to do too much to get it. Think of it as the difference between renting your home and having a rental property. If I get leads organically, it's because I have an asset that's sitting out there working for me. And people usually think about that in terms of money and investments, but you can really apply that to marketing too. If I have a rental property on the keyword B2B SEO agency, then I collect rent from that ranking because I get those clicks and those leads coming in. If I post on LinkedIn, and you can argue this isn't quite organic because I'm putting an effort for it, but I'm not paying for it. I'm not spending money for it. I'm getting it organically, meaning not paid in this case. So I'm posting on LinkedIn, and the views that come in from that cause the same flow. People see the post, see who I am, they see more posts, again, see the profile, check out Revenue Zen. Eventually they convert, meaning they submit a form and they say, I saw your CEO's post on LinkedIn. I'd like to talk to sales. Right. So that's what it is to bring in that pipeline, is people who were looking for what you do and have an interest in it. You didn't have to barge down their door and say, hello, hi, would you like to buy some stuff from me? And that's the organic as opposed to paid. Is it just means you put stuff out there, you built an asset, and that asset worked for you versus you having to spend continuously to get that.
Now, you guys position yourself more like a growth marketing agency, right?
Yeah, specifically organic growth marketing. We may change at some point in the future. But there are some plans to continue partnering with paid companies and other agencies. But our core focus is that organic, content-led B2B.
Okay. That was my next question, if you guys did any advertising. But you guys partner with other people that do advertising, right?
Yeah. Right now, for the size of the team that we are, we just want to focus on what we're really good at. I think agencies that grow too quickly and just say yes to too much,
totally,
they end up not doing very well at much of anything. And we'd rather be really, really good at what we're good at.
Would you call growth marketing demand gen? Because I see a lot of people talk about growth marketing, demand gen strategies, all this other stuff. Or do you cross the line somewhere?
Sometimes I hate the terms because for a while it was ABM was the term du jour. And
oh yeah, I remember that.
For 2 years, everyone was like, ABM this, do you guys do ABM? And I was like, what do you mean when you say ABM? Because coming from a sales background, I market to an account and I sell to an account. That's just how it works. Unless I sell like insurance to individuals, in which case I'm not marketing to an account. You're just describing B2B. And obviously there were tactics associated with that, but I find it's kind of the same with demand gen. Roughly what demand gen is creating demand where there was not before. So that's the simplest version, in which case, yes, we do that. It's easier to say that we do that with LinkedIn because you're reaching people who weren't searching for it. They didn't necessarily have intent to buy from us. And then they saw our stuff and their intent grew, their demand grew. So we're creating demand that way.
I love that.
SEO is a mix of both, right? Because you can capture someone with SEO who isn't looking to buy right now, but you can move them along that journey, that internal, in the heart and the mind, like, I would like to talk to this company about buying from them with what you do. Or you can capture demand. You can capture people just sort of in the line when they're looking for example, B2B SEO agencies, and you can stand in there and say, hey, we're one of those, talk to us and get them that way. So SEO is a bit of both, depending on how you do it. LinkedIn is more demand generation, like creating net new demand. Right. It's rare that people go to LinkedIn and search for a specific provider, and then you sort of just respond to the bid. That's not really how LinkedIn works. So I'd say we do both. Yeah.
I like that. Now, how do you know if someone is doing SEO well or properly? Because I get, even from our customers, hey, Seuss, do you know anyone who does SEO? And I'm like, yes, sometimes no. I'm like, what are you looking for specifically? Yeah. And I've seen customers from ours, because we do WordPress website, they'll say, I'm doing it all. I got website SEO down. I don't need any more SEO. So they're like, they got the title, the meta description, the image alt tags. They got all that. They're like,
God,
100%. I don't need anything. I don't need press releases. I don't need blogs. I don't need all this other stuff. Right. And then you just see people that say SEO is dead. What are you talking about? It's all about LinkedIn. You just need LinkedIn and a website. So that's a different topic. I don't want to go off tangent, but I do
oh my
want to know your
God.
thoughts about that. But everyone uses Google, right? So we can talk about that topic later. But yeah, how do you know if they're doing it well, the SEO?
You hit on one of my biggest pet peeves, which is when people say, my Yoast lights are all firing green. I've done SEO. And I'm like, no, you have not. No, you have not. You have merely taken your little house and cleaned it up. Great. That doesn't mean anyone's going to rent from you, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and just what Alex is talking about for those that are listening or watching this episode, Yoast is a WordPress SEO plugin that basically measures whatever the SEO keywords are for the page, and they'll tell you if you're using it too much or not using enough and all that stuff. It kind of gives you like red, yellow, green light kind of thing. Anyways, just for context.
Think of this analogy, right? Like, I am a great warrior because I have polished my sword and armor to the utmost degree sitting in my armchair. It is so clean and shiny and sharp. Or is it that I went out and conquered some stuff, right? Like when you're doing SEO properly, you should be going out and getting new things. You should be going out and capturing keywords, topics, gaining more attention, territory, expanding your kingdom. Right. I'm not trying to get too imperialist, but the analogy stands. Like the idea is not to say, from what I have cleaned it up. It is to add more things that are doing more for you. It's to build more assets. SEO has to be about revenue, right? Not just rankings, and certainly not just about like optimizing the things you already have. It's about building more and building the right more things. So when you know you're doing this well, is you have profitable territory. You have rankings that turn into revenue because you're ranking for things that very closely correlate with what you offer. And that is translating to leads that are converting to pipeline and revenue. And the easiest test is I look at your form submissions from organic search. And most people get this wrong because they have a ton of form submissions from organic search. And in the how do you hear about us field, they will say, I saw your CEO on LinkedIn, or I heard you on a podcast or something, or I saw you at a trade show, but it is show up organic, which is, and again, pisses me off. People are like, oh, we're doing so great at organic. Really? Let me see your form submissions. And they're not. They're barely scratching the surface of SEO. And what they could do.
That's very deceiving too, because that makes Google look amazing. Why not put more into ads than for Google? Why not invest more in Google? Like that makes Google look like a superstar.
Oh, it's a completely a like passive self-serving behavior. And we just eat it hand over fist and we don't question it. Right. And what B2B marketers have to do is just get in there and physically, if you don't have the how do you hear about us form field on the form, then you have to listen to calls, talk to sales, because they will tell you the real story. And every sales team that is doing well knows a good lead from a bad one and generally has a sense of where the leads came from. Best to just put the actual field on the form. And then better yet, to set up your attribution so that you understand that someone's first step to you was not simply by typing in the name of your own business into Google. That's not organic. That's brand. So if they type in like best insurance deck page management software and find your excellent blog on this, and then they convert, that is a lead from SEO. That is how you know you're doing it well. It's not because I Googled JRM web marketing, clicked on the Google result for you, contacted you. That's not an SEO lead. That's a brand or some other kind of lead. So you know you're doing well at SEO when you get more territory and that territory works for you and you verify that by listening to customers and that they end up paying you. You can verify it with the bank account. Other than that, you are not doing SEO.
Now, with you guys doing, organic growth marketing, do you guys do a lot of the customer research too? Like use their existing clientele and, I don't know, maybe even their CRM and pull some data out of that?
Absolutely. We have one company that just came to us and they were getting closer to 270 to 300 leads a month from SEO.
Mm-hmm.
And they're down to 200 to 220 leads a month from SEO. It's a bigger company. And so our job has been to dig through all of the reporting, the keywords, and all of the performance on each of those keywords and figure out, all right, so you have 1,000 keywords that declined in performance at the last 2 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
But wait, which of those turned into losses of leads? It's probably only 10% of those pages that actually led to lead losses. But wait, did they gain in other areas? So we have to know the performance of individual content pieces leading to leads and conversions and figure out how your best clients came to you. There are some pages that we have, for example, that give us really small kind of bad leads, like, companies that just cannot afford anywhere near what we do. And some keywords that give us fantastic leads where the companies can easily afford what we do. And so we have to connect that journey from search to conversion to CRM. And then there's the qualitative aspect. This especially comes into place when a company does not have a lot of experience with SEO because they just don't know. Mm-hmm. Right? We can't look at the CRM data and say, well, where do your best SEO sourced clients come from if they don't have many? It's just crapshoot, or it's probably mislabeled.
Yeah.
So we have to then go to what's called the search intent, which means you Google a keyword and you ask yourself, what is somebody trying to do? Like if I Google, examples of LinkedIn posts, we rank number 1 for that keyword. We rank number 1 or 2 for the phrase LinkedIn post, for that matter. We get almost no leads from that because the intent of that keyword is to learn. It is not to buy. So they're going to hit our page. We'll store their information with the tracking cookie. We might retarget them later, but they're not ready to buy. Almost certainly not ready to buy.
Yeah.
So if there's no CRM data, and even when there is, you got to turn to search intent. That is the big way to figure out how to get business, not just brand, from SEO.
I love that. Well, let's talk about audits because that's something that you guys do is audits. What consists of the audit?
The job of an audit is to make sure there's nothing preventing you from taking all the territory you need. It is not the job of SEO. It's the thing that unblocks the rest of it. So, for example, if you want to go take a bunch of territory related to keywords around your SaaS, but your, like you said earlier, your titles, your metas are all default, stock, and out of whack. Your site loads really slowly. The structure of it doesn't lend itself well to either Google or customers understanding what you do. Then an audit can uncover those things and say, hey, before you go aggressively after this opportunity, we should change X, Y, and Z to make it much easier to do that.
Totally.
The mistake people make is thinking that an audit is winning the battle. The audit is just making sure you're ready. Now, you got to go beyond the audit and do SEO. You have to build the right content, earn the right links, link internally, all the day-to-day things that entail doing SEO. The audit just lets you do that with a higher chance of success, and it de-risks the investment. So a lot of agencies are like, come to us, we'll do an audit. And then that's done. People will be like, oh, no, we did SEO. We had an audit done 3 weeks ago. I'm like, did you now? How many leads are you getting from it? So that's the point of an audit, is to unblock the rest of it. And that, like we talked about all the time, necessarily needs to bring in a competent web team because it all blends together. Your reviews, your web presence, the speed, essentially the whole storefront and what people think about your store essentially has to be in line. And then when you do SEO, they'll be like, oh yeah, jmwebmarketing.com. I know those people from LinkedIn. I'm going to click on that result instead of these other results.
What has been the common issue that you've seen with all of your customers or most of your customers?
I think the most common issue with SEO is misunderstanding the purpose of it or the time frame of it. A lot of people they'll say, oh, my CEO really wants to rank for this one particular keyword. I'm like, really? I don't think the intent of this keyword is people that want to buy your stuff. And it's people that want to learn. It's probably college students. And so we have to dig in and say, actually, it's this keyword in here that you want to start with. Because if you're just getting started with SEO, you're going to have the most misconceptions when you start, versus if you're sophisticated, you'll have much fewer misconceptions. So I'm mostly talking about the earlier stage companies, right? And they'll say, oh, my CEO really wants to rank for this one keyword. I'll be like, I don't think you do. I think you want to rank for this one that has like tool or software or best or something associated with it, or that is more specific to what you do versus this general topic. But most CEOs are like, oh yeah, SEO. I want to rank for my brand name and for the phrase B2B sales. Like, do you really? You think that's going to get you leads? It's super difficult to do and you're not going to get business from it. Great for brand. It's great, to show off to your friends, but I think you want pipeline from this. So let us look at the keywords and the search intent behind those and map that to your actual business and what your sales team wants to talk to. And it's probably different. And the next big misconception is how long it takes. And I don't mean time. I mean, amount of assets produced. You're going to need to produce like 50 to 100 well-optimized content assets to really start ranking for competitive terms, and for more competitive terms, much beyond that. You're also going to need a pretty good link profile, which means other sites pointing to yours and saying, yep, we link to this site because we give it our stamp of approval. Without that, it's going to take a while, if ever. And so people think, oh, it takes a while. It just takes a good amount of effort. You can do that effort in 3 months. You can do that effort spread over a year or 2 years. It's mostly about how much you do. There is a seasoning component to it, but people misunderstand that it's just some sort of magic thing where Google has to wait. It's not about waiting. It's about making your site something that is worth people visiting. Right. And that amount of assets depends on what you do. If you want to rank for the term coronavirus, good luck. You're going to need just an ungodly amount of authority. If you want to rank for, the implementation services of some obscure HRIS platform that is used by, the Fortune 50 in certain corners of the departments, that's probably super uncompetitive. And you can do that with 30 really good URLs and 50 links. There's a big difference there. But it's not just this nebulous amount of time that it takes. It's a certain amount of effort and production in the right places. Think about going back to the not to use too many war analogies, but think about how Ukraine is like, we really need to retake this particular town and bridge because that is so strategic. It's the same thing for SEO. We really need this particular keyword, which gives us this amount of lead flow, helps us fund the other, entrees into different territories and other maybe top of funnel pieces. But you have to look at that strategy of like, if we do this, then we'll be able to do that with it versus just this, like, I want to rank for B2B sales or sales forecasting or something. You got to get into it.
I love the audits because it exposes things and then it helps you to know where to double down on.
Yeah. Once you start getting some pipeline from it, that's really qualified in clients that you didn't have to pay to acquire, it's so addictive. And then you're gonna be like, okay, let's take this more seriously, which is why it's much easier for us to work with companies that have had some success with SEO before, because we don't have to convince them that it works. They're like, I know it works. Just do it better than my last agency. And we're like, okay, we can clean up. That's easy.
It makes me wonder, because they're doing LinkedIn, right? And then they're doing SEO. It makes me wonder, one, do you need both of them? And then two, it makes me wonder if they get more from LinkedIn or if they get more from the SEO.
Good question. It all depends. Those are two really good organic channels for B2B. And they do work well together, but they can totally be run independently. I would rather have a mix of both so that I'm less dependent on just one. I'd much rather have some really good rankings and also a good LinkedIn presence because they work in different ways. And one is demand gen, one is more demand capture, right? So I can work on educating my target market with my LinkedIn posts and presence when they're not expecting it, when they're not necessarily in the market for it. So that by the time they're ready to go Google B2B SEO agency, they're like, oh yeah, revenue's in, I've seen them. I'll choose that result over this other company. Yeah. So remember, when people are clicking on stuff, they're going to click on names they recognize. So building brand helps you immensely with SEO because of that click data. If people see your well-ranked result and they don't know you and don't click on you, then you're going to drop because Google's going to be like, well, we're seeing clicks for this other company, so they must be better, regardless of that page's optimization sometimes. Right. Lots of clicks can override great quote unquote SEO. That's why just taking care of your Yoast green lights is not going to do the job of building your brand. So yes, they do work together. They can be run independently, but they're better together. Just like all organic strategies are better together because they play off each other.
I love that. Now, what are your thoughts about LinkedIn reach? Because I hear from a lot of B2B marketers, I mean, even in the feed, they're like, it's killing us. This reach keeps getting worse. Does that play into your guys' services when using LinkedIn, or do you guys don't even focus on the reach?
I don't care too much. My total reach as in absolute numbers has gone up slightly year over year with a slight increase in effort as well. But what matters is not the amount of views LinkedIn tells you you're getting, or really the amount of engagements you're getting. What matters is how many minds you have influenced in a small way. And you might say, well, if my views go down, I'm influencing fewer people, and therefore I'm, creating less demand in the buyer journey. Fair enough. But we all remember when Facebook grossly misreported their video views, or was it YouTube? Don't quote me on which one it was. One of the big ad platforms was caught grossly misreporting its video views for advertisers. So we really don't know how successful we are with our reach until we translate that to how many people contacted you or bought, either assisted or sourced, because of that LinkedIn presence. And if that number is going up, you are doing your job. Reach be damned, right? So it has to translate to those bottom of funnel outcomes. And you could not sit in your marketing armchair and say, well, we created the leads, we created the views. We don't care what happens after that. Sorry. It has to be good leads. And provided your sales team is good and doing their job, separate issue, then you know if your leads are good or not. And if they come to you from LinkedIn and you label them as such in your CRM, you can run a report. What's the win rate of leads sourced from LinkedIn versus leads sourced from ebook downloads? Guarantee you there's going to be a big difference there.
I definitely see a big difference even in podcasting. As soon as this is published early in the morning, we'll get a few that listen to it, post it on LinkedIn, like triples in numbers. I'm like, okay, people read this. And they're taking action. So on the topic of LinkedIn, so I personally can get overwhelmed with my LinkedIn profile, my LinkedIn company page. I can feel guilty for abandoning my company page from time to time. And I know marketers feel this as well. What should you prioritize? Which one should we put more energy into that you see as maybe more valuable?
That's a good question. Whenever a marketer asks us to work on their company LinkedIn page, unless it's a big company with an existing big following, I will make them swear in writing that they expect a 0 ROI from our company page LinkedIn work. If they say, yep, I expect no leads from it, still want you to do it, we'll be like, great, we'll work on it. But the only way to expect any return on your investment at all, until your page is already big, your company page that is to work on personal profiles. And you think about why that is, right? Do you go on social media and look at what faceless brands are saying? Not until they're big enough to have their own personality. You might follow Wendy's Twitter, but even with Tesla, we follow Elon Musk, not Tesla.
Yeah, I don't even when I think about like Gong, right?
You think of the people.
I don't really follow their company page. I know they write great content, but I'm not really interested in it. I want to know who's behind the content.
Yes, you hit the nail on the head. It's the reputation of the writer. Who is saying this and can I trust them? That there is an ancient link between a person who has a reputation that they cannot escape because there is a face and an identity attached to them, that a company does not have. A company can have an entirely new set of staff, in theory, in 3 months. And the people who said all the things that they promised you and talked about could all be gone, but the company could remain the same. And for that reason, company pages are less effective at converting because there's no reputation attached to it that cannot be tied back to a single person. You can kind of get around that if you are a founder, a significant employee, like taking Gong, right? You ascribe good qualities to Gong in part because of what Sarah Brazier and Chris Orlab and Amit Bendov and all the team there are talking about. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, your personal profile is not just going to have this reputational power to it, but you just get more reach, like mechanically. You're going to get way more ability to reach people. Your content will be more effective. It'll be in your voice. You carry it with you if you change companies. There's just so much behind it that yields a far better ROI from it. I mean, think about this, right? Our Revenue Zen's company page has maybe brought in one lead in the last 5 years. My profile, posts and comments have brought in 120 closed won accounts, not just leads, closed won.
Right.
So, I mean, the difference is massive.
And you build the trust on their personal. It's kind of hard to build trust on just a company page.
Because the company can change its people. And we don't form relationships with companies. We are just not wired to do that. The construction is too recent to have altered our evolution. We know that companies are not liable for the actions of their people. As a result, we can't trust companies inherently. We can only trust people because people have a liability. It's really skin in the game. People have skin in the game. We can trust them. We will listen to them. Maybe if they're good. Companies don't have skin in the game beyond their people much. So that's why it's the evolutionary explanation dictating why you should put content on your personal profile versus your company page.
I love that. Now, last question. Do you have any advice or tips for B2B marketers that are trying to grow organically?
If you are trying to grow organically and you're just starting out, my advice is to go for the easiest possible outcome first. If it's SEO, look for the keyword that has 25 searches a month, but it is a fantastic fit for what you do. Before you go for the big, broad keyword that has 5,000 searches a month and is only generally related to what you do. It's also much easier to get. Because remember, when you're trying to grow organically, your job is to prove value fast. And you prove value by bringing in any leads at all. So if you say my first act as organic head of growth is going to be to go after this thing that takes 2 years to get and might result in some stuff, that's tough to sell. You have a much more successful internal sales process when you do a small thing for 2 months, build a tiny flow of leads and say, hey, look at that. Let me build on it. If it's LinkedIn, post case studies to start. That's the easiest way to bring in leads. Post really good, well-written customer stories. Don't start trying to build this nebulous big brand and let people know that you're a sage ruler archetype and don't bother with that stuff until you've already proved some success. Because once you've proved some success with the easy things, then you can get buy-in from the org to go do the harder things. And that's when it gets really interesting. Once you're there, you're probably beyond the point of needing to hear my advice too much. There's different advice to give once you're already bringing in leads. I have plenty of things to say of people who have some success on LinkedIn and want to do better, or some success on SEO and want to do better. There's plenty there, but the principle is the same. Go after the easiest things first to build trust with your team, and then go after the harder things. When you're ready, you can do those at the same time. And you can say, well, we're going to do some short-term payoffs and some moonshots. Great strategy.
I love it. That's great. Thanks for dropping the knowledge.
Yeah, so much fun. This is my favorite thing to talk about people in B2B with, because it's the thing that lets them get off the hamster wheel of I have to pay, I have to spend all the money, raise more money, and constantly be stressed to grow. And my thesis is that you do not. You can achieve more predictability, lower CAC, better growth overall, more happy customers, easier time selling strategies to your team. And you can build a paid more kind of fast growing marketing system on top of your organic foundations rather than skipping that process. So my thesis is don't skip that process. Build your content and organic foundations first. And then, great. That's a good launching point to do more faster paced, highly scalable things.
I love it. How are you doing on time?
Good.
Good. One last question. I actually lied. I have another question. So why not focus on paid for yourself? I know you have a partner that would do paid, but I'm just curious because this sparks a lot of curiosity for me, because when I talk to demand gen people or growth marketers or whatever type of marketer, they always say do a blend, ads, because you get a quick, return on investment. But why is that not part of your core?
You certainly can do a blend. I think a lot of people do the blend for that internal sales reason. Mm-hmm. And it's not just the channel. They want to say, look, I, the marketer, am doing these things right. I'm creating some leads. And they use some pay to generate some action, no matter how expensive it is, because they want to say, look, I'm generating action. Please give me the time to do this right. And then I usually see that in cases where either the paid strategy is uncompetitive, uncommonly uncompetitive, and it's an easy low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Or they just have venture money and they need to spend that money to scale faster than just doing organic alone, which is perfectly fine. I'm actually not against paid at all. I just see organic being under advocated for. So I spend much more time advocating for that. At Revenues End, we are planning our own paid strategy, but it's been a long time of just doing organic. And now we are finally doing that. And there was no investor, no board to need to convince about this. Yeah. It's me. I'm the majority shareholder. So I can just say that. And I know that it has worked. But a lot of times that's not the case. And you have others to answer to who don't have a marketing background. And paid can be a good tool on its own. It's expensive, but it's a good tool on its own. And then B, it can be a way of showing that you're doing stuff, which is perfectly viable. Like, hey, board, we're generating leads from paid. Look at that. CAC is kind of high. I get it, but we're building organic over the long term. So let me do this blend to kind of create this path to sustainability while spending more money now. Now, Revenues End, my company is not venture backed. So we just go the organic route.
That makes sense. If you have an executive also that values and understands marketing and stuff, and they want to lower CAC, then organic's the way to go.
It is. Exactly.
That makes sense. Oh, hey, Alex, thank you for your time. This was awesome.
Always fun. Thanks for having me on, Jesus.
Have a good one.